Hey, good evening, everyone. So, welcome to this LinkedIn Live on becoming the boss, how to transition from being an individual contributor to a manager to a leader. All of us love promotions, right? We always strive for that upward movement, higher position, better salary, and even that corner office, isn't it? And I meet so many professionals and I ask them this question that what is your career plan? Most of them say either higher salary or better position. So all of us love getting promoted, but very few of us really know what it's like to work in a better position. Are we ready for it? Is there any transition? Is it difficult? Company expectations completely change. Do skills requirements also change? So let's dig deeper into how to become a boss, how to become a manager and leader if you are an individual contributor from someone who has been doing this a lot, right? He has uh, let's meet Swaroop. Swaroop, hi. Thank you so much for coming to this live session. And thank you so much, Swaroop.
Hi Harshit, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
So let me introduce Swaroop first. Swaroop is an ICF credentialed leadership coach and a strategic HR professional. He has over a decade of experience across the spectrum of the HR function at several large organizations like Infosys, Siemens, and Schneider Electric. Swaroop holds an MBA from a famous B school, Accelera Jamshedpur, and also studied business strategy from INSEAD Business School. Okay, so he knows things, right? It clearly says that. And by the way, he writes himself on topics of leadership and careers. So do follow him on LinkedIn. And there is a newsletter on LinkedIn. He writes a lot. So do follow him on LinkedIn and his newsletter for, like I love his posts. They're mostly from his personal experience, right? So not just this live, but do check out Swaroop on his LinkedIn profile as well. So, Swaroop, so I have set of questions. So the format is I have a few questions for you, and the audience, make sure you are commenting with your questions. Okay, so I have ample time for audience question and answers, and I will take those questions on LinkedIn. I'll see your comments, and I'll take those questions. If you are watching me live, just click or just hit that like button so that I'll know who is watching me live. Okay, and here we go, Swaroop. Are you ready for the rapid fire question answer?
Yeah, I'm ready, Harshit. Let's dive in.
Okay, all right. So, Swaroop, the first question is okay, I'm an individual contributor today. And Swaroop, I'm taking professional side here, and you are on the opposite side. All right. So,
Right.
from my point of view, I'm an individual contributor. Let's say I'm an engineer, worked for many years, but now I want to move up to a first time manager level. So, is it different for me? Your expectations from as a company, do you expect or do you see me differently? My KRS change. Do you expect different skills from me? How is that transition, and what are the best practices or what are the tips for me?
Yeah. No, I think it's a very important question because there will be a lot of people who are watching this live who would have been a first time manager who can relate to the importance of it, and also there must be a lot of people who are wanting to become a people manager and also looking for some tips on that front, right? So what's really fundamentally different when we see an individual contributor turning into a manager is that everything changes, which means that the expectation from the team is a new burden on the individual, which is not the case the individual would have ever experienced. Because just think about it, all the time during your education and when you also move into the corporate, it's all you as a single individual working on whatever that you're working on. But then suddenly now you have a team which is also expecting you to help them, and that expectation itself is a biggest change that the first time manager will feel. Other than the team's individual team's expectations, I think organizations and any company also expects certain minimum set of things that first time manager should be doing, which involves um, regular processes like trying to do performance management, which involves setting up goals, breaking down
Mhm.
and assigning responsibilities. So all of this is a science and an art in itself. So a lot of things will change. So I'll just take an example from the world of sports. So take cricket, which is something that a lot of people can relate to, right? So most of the times you see extraordinarily performing talent being given the opportunity to lead a team. So
Yes.
I go back to Sachin Tendulkar's example, and with all respect to Sachin Tendulkar, he chose to come back from a captaincy to an individual contributor because he
Yes.
wanted to focus on his own batting, and that's what and that's and Sachin, being Sachin, who is extremely self-aware of himself, has
Yes.
done that, and not many people will do that as well, right? So building on that example, I think what worked for an individual to become a manager and to take up that sort of first level leadership position is not what will help him or her to eventually grow further in the organization or in the hierarchy, right? So first and foremost thing, empathy plays a role because you have to
Okay.
hear and talk to people, and you have to also listen to them to an extent that it might feel like an overhead for you to deliver your own responsibilities. Because most of the first time managers, you also have to understand that it's not that they are just doing coaching people, but they also might have a lot of deliverables themselves. And in a market like right now, most of the times the first time managers are largely playing both an individual contributor role as well as handling a set of few number of team members to start with. So to be able to listen and show that empathy, and one of the most important thing is to let go of that control, because it's not an easy thing if you're not preparing yourself to do that, which means you must have worked in a particular way for you to do certain set of tasks and activities,
Yes.
and your
Yes.
own unique style is something that you're extremely comfortable with. But then suddenly you have a new team members who are doing things in a different way, and you want to have a control over them, trying to
Yes.
say this is not the way you should be doing, but then there is another way to do it because that's my way. So that
Yes.
sort of a mindset shift is going to be a very big thing, and if you're not preparing yourself to get into that shoes and also understand there are different ways to approach a particular task, I think that appreciation for other ways of working is going to be a really make or break deal for the first time managers.
Yeah, brilliant, Swaroop. Actually, like I'm used to being a single player, right? How can I be a doubles player now, or even more people
Yeah,
along with me, right? And they will have their own styles, they will have their own personalities. So how do I still gel well with them and still make things happen, right? Finally, and still continue to do my work because I might
yeah,
have certain responsibilities just on me. So a corollary question: what if I do not want to be a people leader, right? Let's say I want to be a domain expert. Like I want to keep on doing not the same work, but maybe in-depth work. Let's say I want to keep on growing myself with various skills, but I do not like people management. Does career growth stop for me, or are there any career paths for domain experts as opposed to, let's say, team leaders?
okay. So I think when you say career growth, I think the definition of how you see career growth is going to play a critical role in this. And it also boils down to several choices that you make in this process, because these days, with the advancement of technology and
Hmm.
also different lines of expertise that are
Yep.
coming up every day, there are always different sort of examples, and you can debate either ways. There could be individual contributors who would never want to become a manager and still be able to grow the ranks in the organization because of the chosen specialization. And at the same time, there will be people who might feel like stuck because they have chosen a specialization, and if their way of defining career growth is to have large number of teams reporting into them, And if they don't realize that that line of specialization can never offer that large hierarchical reporting, so they might feel upset. So there are three four things here. One is the awareness of the field, so knowing the terrain where you are operating, and what are the pros and cons when you are limiting yourself there. Once you're aware, then you can make an informed decision as to whether you want to be in that specialization. Still, through expertise you gain authority and also influence, which can help you to grow in the organization. But at the same time you might not have large number of teams reporting into you. But at the same time you could also choose between options, and if you feel like you want to balance it out, so you might have to be a bit more proactive in your approach towards planning your career rather than just waiting for the opportunities. So it's not very straightforward thing, I would say, but it's really the understanding of the opportunities that every it's like there are multiple lanes in a highway. So you know where there will be exits, where there will be kind of flyovers, where there will be underpasses. So once you know that entire highway, you will be able to at least make a way for you to reach whatever destination that you want to reach, and the destination need not be um, that need not be defined by someone else, but you can actually define what it is.
Yeah, great metaphor, Swaroop. Is like everyone's career is different, right? So, and it's
Yeah,
your choice finally, which
yeah,
lane you want to choose. There will
yeah,
be pros and cons, there will be consequences for every decision you make. But as you said, just proactively take decisions rather than,
yeah.
it's like just happening around you. Great, great. So, loving this discussion so far, Swaroop. Now, taking it further, right? I'm already a people manager now. I'm doing a good job, hopefully. Let's say I want to be a leader now. And when do you call me a leader than a manager? And what are the now next transition? What are the expectations from a leader?
Yeah, it's a very good question because in traditional language, leader is someone who is like at the top of the pyramid,
Yes,
and that pyramids could be varying, just like the way we have just discussed. It could be a pyramid in a specialization, super specialization, or it could be a pyramid in a regular operations kind of a space. So biggest change again is going to be that your manager for managers.
okay.
So all that we discussed about how will that change be from an individual contributor to a manager.
Yes,
Now you
yes,
repeat that in multiple levels, and at
yes,
the same time you repeat that in a wide variety of spectrum. So you will have different managers who are managing different team members, and of that different set of managers there could be first time managers as well, there could be tenured managers as well, but you are a manager of all such wide variety of managers. So it's not just that you are empathetic, you're expected to be listening to them. You're also expected to coach these managers to listen to someone else. So the complexity of it becomes multiplied, and if there are so many layers, which means that it's not just one layer of manager, but then two three layers of managers, if I am talking about the highest level of the pyramid, that becomes that complicated. But it's all about, again, as I said, the choices that you make throughout your career to have reached that position. Because if you're making a choice to have that sort of a career, that sort of a responsibility, then you better prepare yourself early on. And
yeah,
that preparation is going to come super handy when you are there, because all
yeah.
of a sudden you can't do it when you are there. And even simplistically saying that you wouldn't be reaching that position if you are not preparing yourself for that. It's
Okay.
as
Yeah,
simple as
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, where do I learn these things? I mean, okay. I mean, as you said, I have to make those choices and proactively prepare myself. What are different ways of learning these things apart from this LinkedIn live and talking to you?
Yeah. No, it's a very good question. And I think traditionally people are used to sitting in a classroom and learning, right? And we have this
Yes,
standard model called 70-20-10, which means 70% of development and learning happens through experience, 20%
yes,
happens through exposure, and 10% happens through education, which is by any
Okay.
form of learning and any
Yes.
form of
Yes.
classroom. But that 70% becomes very critical here. So
Okay.
where do people can learn? It's really sticking their neck out and going into spaces within their organization or within
Mm.
their domain. It could be outside their organization sometimes if they are part of a larger community. So there will be opportunities for them to practice that sort of opportunity to collaborate and lead teams, be it without any direct reporting, because there is also a concept called leading teams without authority on them. Authority in this sense
Okay.
is direct line of authority. So you
Okay.
could be kind of a team leader or a squad leader or a functional leader for a cross functional or a multidisciplinary teams. So you could get several opportunities if you are just being open to such opportunities within your organization or outside your organization. And largely these days, and especially with so many social movements that are also happening, so you could definitely find several opportunities if you are just kind of keeping your eyes and ears open.
Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is to get that exposure to being a manager or a leader, I can make short, let's say small experiments, let's say make
Yeah,
pivots,
yeah.
side projects, you can say, within the organization or even outside organization in social circles or anywhere where I get that exposure and practical experience of being one.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'll just share, and as you said this, it struck me a particular example that I heard several years back. There was a leader that I was working with, not
Okay.
directly, but he was kind of the leader of the pyramid that we are talking about,
Okay.
right? And when he was asked about similar question, and he also mentioned that he happened to be in a United Nations forum where he was asked to
Mm-hmm.
lead a team coming from different walks of life. And he was
Okay.
a software company's leader, but he was leading teams who are coming from sports, who are coming from movies, who are coming
All
from
right.
several such diverse industries. And that was an opportunity that he took uh, all by himself, because he thought, I would generally lead teams in a software company, but I don't get to lead teams in such a diverse space. So if you are making that effort to try and go and look for such opportunities, you will be able to get that. And if you really are not able to find, I think someone like you, Harshit, and if people can reach out to me, I can also help them to connect to different people, because there are always some sort of projects who are looking to have diverse skills participate and contribute. So that option is always there.
Yeah, totally makes sense, Swaroop. So, audience, if you are watching this live, please do comment with your question, because I have a couple of more questions, but actually I have four more questions, but I will take your questions before, all right? So, because I would like to keep this interactive and you are spending your time live with me, with us, so I would like to give you a preference as well. So, do keep your questions coming in the comments. I'm seeing your comments and I will actually put your question on spotlight on screen as well. And I have an announcement to make about the next event. Okay, so if you are someone, a professional who is looking for a job change, all right, and you want like a better position, better salary, better company, and you don't know like how to go about it, you have been trying things on job portals but things are not working for you, then do meet me on this Sunday 11 a.m., all right, coming Sunday 19 June. But it's going to be on Zoom, so you'll have to register for it. Okay, so just type harshadbhagwat.com/webinar, and you will also find this link on my profile. So do register and meet me live of 1.5 hours power packed session to learn job search process step by step. All right, so I hope to see many of you live on Sunday 11 a.m. All right. So coming to now next question, Swaroop, is MBA necessary because we are on learning thing? So you talked about side project or getting exposure to a manager or leader. Is MBA mandatory? And I'm asking on behalf of those people, even like me, who are now quite experienced but do not have an MBA. So what should I do?
This is a never ending debate, right? So there will always be a bunch of people who would have done an MBA. There will always be a lot of people who would not have done an MBA. So one thing we clearly see is that as a trend in the market,
Mm.
many companies, many organizations, I'm not even talking about startups here, large organizations are doing away with having degrees as a way to attract talent. I know there's again a debate, and in fact, I read a LinkedIn post just today. I think it's from one of the connections that I'm aware of, who was mentioning that degrees still will play a large important role, which is also right. But it's like this. Imagine going back 20 years, there was never a company who would have hired people without any degree. So
Yes.
today there are some companies who are hiring people without degrees. I know lot of my friends who do not have an undergraduate degree as well are working in good
Okay.
organizations.
Wow.
No, I'm not even talking about post graduation.
Yes.
So why the
Yes.
question is for MBA, I'm going one step backwards and saying that
Yes.
there are decent number of companies which are not really looking at degrees, at least to
Yes.
talk to, right? Once you talk to them, then you will understand how you can showcase your work, your skills, and your ability to convince to go beyond the traditional route of hiring people with certain degrees. Now, uh, obviously it's also a mental block, I believe, in the minds of the individuals, because if you have like that, like I used to have for my own self in the past, when I never had an MBA degree, that I should
Okay.
have an MBA degree. So if that is the mental block that I as an individual and who are listening to this call as a professional has it, I
Yes.
think by all means you should try to address that block. And I'm not saying that addressing that block means that you should go out and do an MBA.
Hmm.
Addressing
Hmm.
that block could be a way to really ask those questions as to, okay, I don't have an MBA. How is this stopping me? What is
Hmm.
it that I can do to still be able to do what I want to do, even without having an MBA degree?
Yes.
Is it going to be easy, or is it going to be something that I cannot do it? If you find the answer to be that no, I can't achieve this without an MBA degree, by all means go and try and apply, prepare, and the process, as some of you might be knowing, that it's not a one day thing. It'll take a little bit of time. Even if
Yes.
you're really smart, it'll take 6 months to 1 year to be able to get into a
Yes.
good business school. But these days you have several options. Even there are actually books. I think there's a book called Personal MBA, if I am not wrong.
Okay.
And it's from someone who had similar question, but he
Hmm.
converted his own question to a book, which is kind of a super duper bestseller. And you can
Wow.
read, try and learn and practice, and also get some opportunities like we have discussed a few minutes back, to get yourself experience of trying to drive and do certain things on your own, which can bridge some of those gaps. But as I said, if it is something that you personally believe that you should have had an MBA degree, and if you think that you will regret about it, by all means go ahead and go through that entire process, and you will get your own answer in that process. I think that will be the
Yeah.
best way to have an answer for that question.
No, I think you're right. I put a difficult question, and there is always a debate. But sort of finally, this was a great food for thought for us. That why MBA, we want to do, and just having an MBA degree is not like mandatory by companies anymore. But can you show the same skills, same capabilities without MBA? Then great. If not, then you better learn real MBA or through some other means, right? So it's finally about meeting those expectations. And yeah, many questions are coming up. So Juhit, wonderful session. Thank you so much for this compliment. I just have, I think, one more question. And before I move to audience questions, see, people feel that people get stuck in the current organization, okay? And it's a pyramid. So many times people get stuck. So do you think like switching jobs is a better way to move up, or moving up in the same organization, really doing a great job and whatever is required to move up? So which one is better in general?
Hmm. So I think this is perhaps one of the most common questions that many people will have, and I think the Great Resignation debate also would have put
Yes.
this thought in several people's minds.
Yes.
Again, I'll take a step back and start talking about how different industries are changing. So
Okay.
these days, it's very obvious that the difference between industries, the difference is blurring, and it's not like company can be limiting itself to a particular industry. Every company is a tech company, by the way. So it's not like there isn't any company
Yeah.
which is not tech company. So with that as a backdrop, I think what will be smart for anybody to do it is to see what are those skills that they have gained that they can translate into something else, as in to put those skills into practice, not just in their line of work but in several other places. For example, if you're good with managing people, you could become a community manager, you could become an operations leader, you could become an HR professional, you could become several other
Yes.
such areas where you can put those skills into practice, right?
Yes.
And the point is, and the same thing can be applied even being within the same organization.
Yes.
So to answer directly about switching jobs, I think you can definitely look to switch jobs within the same organization to start with.
Okay.
And that's something that not everybody consider it as a smart thing, because just based on one experience of yours about a company, you start judging the entire company. And
Hmm.
that's not a smart way to look at it, because you think about it, you might have studied in a school or a college, and you know, for that matter, how your experience of being in that institution has been shaped by several experiences, which means that in one year you might have had a bad time with a bad faculty, the next year you might have had a great experience having an
Yeah.
extraordinary faculty.
Yeah.
Same
Yeah.
applies to your workplace as well, right?
Sure.
So think of, and if you feel like you've explored enough about your organization that there is no way that this suits you, then obviously there are many organizations, and it's not just one company that is out there in the market. There's so many companies. So again, I think an abstract answer to the simple straightforward question, should you switch jobs, or should you stay up in the same company, it really depends about what is the work that you have done so far being in that company.
Hmm.
If you are
Hmm.
convinced, obviously there's nobody who is going to stop you. And I think there are some interesting experiments done by several companies as well, right? I think
Okay.
HUL and PepsiCo had a joint venture for for their talent to have a JV for careers. This
Okay.
actually means that they bring talent from their organization, and they basically export their talent to another company for some time to get
Wow.
exposed, to get exposure.
Wow.
And I think this is just one example that I recollect from my college days. But then there are several companies which are doing such interesting experiments. If you really want to create an impact, do some work, I think this is great time to be in the working age group, because the opportunities are really endless.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now coming to audience question, and we have a lot of them. Okay, Swaroop. So be ready now. These are,
Yeah.
you can say, unseen questions. So here is the first one. So Niranjan, I think Niranjan doesn't have experience. Okay, but has MBA. So an opposite case. So
Hmm.
probably a fresh graduate, and but does have MBA finance. What qualities and skills he should focus on? So early in the game, early in the career, what should he do?
Hmm. Okay, I think MBA finance as a domain has been there for a lot of time, right? It's not a new domain, but what's changing right now is, I think, the fintech part of it, and how the entire landscape of finance itself is changing due to several leading
Yes.
technologies like crypto, and how the banks itself are changing quite a bit. Like I got to know recently that there are several banks which are having their branches in metaverse these days, which means that their customers can go and open an account in metaverse, and that's in some sort of a decentral land, if I'm not wrong. So again, as I said, the industries itself are changing so much that the traditional MBA finance without being able to understand tech might not serve you the best the way it used to serve the past professionals who had an MBA in finance. So when you ask me what qualities or skills should I focus on, I think fintech as a space itself is so dynamic. Of course, right now due to the markets, it's taking a bit of a bad hit, but I still feel that, and in fact, it's not that my gut feeling. It's very much established and proven that finance and banks are some of the leading investors in technology, and they are the ones who always revolutionize a lot of technologies. And you have clear use case about cryptos right now.
Yeah.
And that's not just with cryptos, by the way. That has always been the case. If you go back in time, all the digital usage of regular activities have been initially started by banks. So even if you don't have major experience of finance, I think you must have studied enough of finance in terms of functional aspects. So how you can put that into practice in a changing dynamic tech landscape which is led by banks can be a great opportunity for you to, and I think to, and these days there are a lot of such opportunities to go out and form a part of communities. Like there are
Yeah.
several Discord communities which are open for people to just join and understand what's happening. So the
Yeah.
other day I was talking to someone who is inviting a friend of mine to join a
Hmm.
decentralized autonomous organization in Discord, so that you can really put your skills to practice and change the landscape of supply chain. So the examples are endless, as I said. So it's really about, are you aware of them, are you there in a space where they are happening? So that's the way I would recommend to explore this.
Yeah. So as you said earlier, any company now is a tech company. So that's simple as that, right? And finance is getting the biggest tech disruption. We are seeing that, we are experiencing that. So why not go along with it? And rather than just traditional MBA finance, right? How can you be at the forefront of that? Good. So I think I'm just taking in any or next order actually. Any tips for professor? Okay, so it's a slightly different question. How to move up as a professor? So in a college or in a
Yeah.
university?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, because
Yeah,
that is also a space where
of
there
course.
are careers.
Yes,
And
of course.
in fact, I would again say that it's a great time to be in academia right now. And if you're in
Okay.
India, because even the several changes that the UGC and other academic bodies are making is quite revolutionary in nature. Because now you don't need a master's degree even to do a PhD. You don't need a PhD to go and teach in a central university. These these two things are such a big game changers, which means that you don't really have to have published enough papers, perhaps, but still you might have contributed to a large set of projects that are happening in the society right now, and still be able to get the similar stature and charm and all of that traditional perks that you would otherwise get for getting published in a paper. So I think you just have to see what you can do with your existing skills and what you want to do in the future. And since there are so many businesses coming to India, they would always be looking for people to help their businesses set up and run and put the academic skills and understanding the landscape of India into practice. And they would always be looking for some sort of think tanks, and all the professors who are good at putting their skills and also putting their skills into practice, and also understand their understanding of the society and people of India, can really forge good collaborations and partnerships, and really go out and consult several of these companies which are coming to India right now. So again, quite a dynamic space right now.
Yeah, and just to add, Swaroop, uh, actually the lines between an academia and corporate are also blurring, okay, because
Yeah.
you have many colleges and private universities who are running themselves as if they are corporate, right? So there are like similar career paths, or like more KRA dependent rather than just having a degree or something. And
Yeah,
as you said, for the matter of fact, actually, even companies like L&T have opened up colleges themselves to get skilled manpower, right?
yeah,
So there are things happening. Even my own college, so COUP, they went to companies to teach companies employees. Okay, so even why just professors remain for students? Why not the latest skills which companies do not have, but the professor has the latest skills because he has
yeah.
done PhD and papers for that. So, those, I think,
Absolutely.
cross boundaries pollination, and as you said, like UGC and the NEP, so a lot of new opportunities will open up, right? Maybe not be traditionally you have to do, as you said. I think, Swaroop, your common thread is go with the flow and follow the wave, right? Like what is changes are happening, we all have to be knowing about
Yeah,
those changes,
yeah,
and how can we
adapting.
be ahead of the curve.
Yeah, adapting to the circumstances is such a common message that is being passed on from several people, that that's the best way for you to really shape the future and lead the future that you're just mentioning,
Yeah,
Harshit.
yeah, makes sense. So next question is from Suresh. What rituals we need to follow to enhance our leadership quality? So coming back to the learning point, actually. So he's talking about rituals. So how to learn every day, right? Essentially, like not like suddenly I will not be able to learn leadership or managerial skills. What do I do every day to keep learning?
Yeah, I think it's a great question because I personally love such rituals for myself. And it really depends upon what sort of an individual you are. How do you learn on a regular basis?
Hmm.
Knowing yourself, what sort of ways and means work for you is the biggest way for you to start getting into those rituals. You could be someone who would learn a lot of stuff by reading, or you could be
Yeah.
someone who go out and do certain stuff hands on, and that's the only way for you to learn. And there's nothing like which is right, which is wrong here. You should really understand yourself to be able to figure out what works for you. And it's only through a lot of experimentation, I would say, because even rituals, there isn't any perfect ritual out there, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even just taking an example of an exercising as a ritual, there's no
Yeah.
perfect exercise. It's just that whatever works
Good.
for you,
Yeah.
and at the same time, you have to experience all sort of exercises to be able to appreciate what works for you and what is important for you. So I
Yes.
think it's pure experimentation and not feeling the fear of failing when you're experimenting. And as you move from one to another, one iteration to the next iteration, you'll be able to find out the ritual that suits you the best.
And finally finding time, right, for those rituals, right? Like
Of
same
course.
with
Yeah.
exercising, continuing. I mean, like gym, actually many people start and go for 15 days but do
Yeah.
not complete the
The-
three
I'll
months
share a
or
I'll share an interesting example here. A few years back, I participated in a virtual run.
okay.
Basically, you have to
Okay.
run with your app on, and
Yeah.
this was pre-COVID, by the way, not in or after COVID.
Okay.
So I remember that 16 lakh people registered for this event, and
Mm-hmm.
it was an Adidas mobile app for running. You know, by then I was comfortable running for 5 kilometers every day.
Okay.
But what happened was, of the 16 lakh people who have registered,
Okay.
even after one day, when I ran for 5 kilometers, I was already in the 90th percentile, which means that 90% of the people have not
In,
turned up, perhaps because they have
yeah.
just
Yeah.
registered but did not turn up. Because when you said that to create the time, and I did not do anything other than running for 5 kilometers for 10 days, and it was a 10-day event. I was already in the 99th percentile, in the top 1 percentile of the lot.
True.
So basically, starting and sustaining, both are very,
Yes.
very important for any ritual.
For
That's what I would
yes.
just
Yes.
end
Yeah.
this answer
True.
with.
Makes sense. Great example, Swaroop, actually.
Yeah.
So from Shreya, with every company only looking for leaders from their own domain, how does a person with requisite experience in different domain crack such situations? So, and I just have one more similar question, I would say, so you can maybe combine. Manish is saying being a middle manager while managing a team, my grip on my core or functional skills can be compromised in the sense I'm not from the same domain probably. right? Does it happen, like, will it affect adversely to get the work done? So do you have cases, and I'm sure there are cases, how do I deal with being a manager from a different industry or function, but having a team from different skills?
Yeah. No, I think it's a great question. And as I mentioned, there are several examples where people are moving from one industry to another industry. I think to the question that who was the previous person? Shreya. Yeah.
Yeah,
To the
yeah,
question that Shreya asked, I think it's just that you have to look out for those companies that you want to join, even with a domain expertise that is different from what the organization has or what you have, because there are a lot of companies which are looking for expertise from a different organization and a different domain, and that number also has increased. So it's actually a problem of that company which is not able to look for talent outside their industry. But for someone like us who wants to look for putting our skills to practice and trying to make it count, even we don't come from that industry, there are a lot of opportunities. I think recently there was this Nika company
yes,
who was led by Falguni Nayak, if I'm
yes.
not wrong. So she disrupted the industry because, and she's an outsider, and that
Hmm.
could be an outlier example, but there are enough such examples at different levels. And it's actually a good thing that if you don't come from that baggage of that industry, and you need to know how to sell it, because you can give a fresh perspective to that industry, which is
Yeah,
something that
yeah.
you will be able to appreciate that.
Yeah. So sort of finally, I mean, you got to show why you are applying for, I mean, a different industry, and
Yeah,
not just like you happen to apply, but you are specifically applying because you feel you have unique advantage coming from different industries. So how
yeah.
about you twist it like that, right? Your
Yeah,
story,
absolutely.
and
We
show that.
spoke about the translatable skills in the past few minutes back,
Yes.
right? So your skills from previous domain could be extremely useful if you can really show how you can translate those skills.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, perfect, perfect. So Juhit is asking, can you zoom in on self-awareness as a method to become a great manager, especially for new managers? So being
Okay.
self-aware as a manager.
Yeah. So I think it's a very good question, because anything that is to do with self-awareness, I'm a huge fan of it.
Okay. Yeah.
But most importantly, it becomes really important for anyone who is working in teams.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter whether you're a manager or not, whether you are in a social setup. If you're aware of how your actions and behavior is impacting others, then you're already practicing those skills, even if you're not a manager. So if you have not done it in the past, then it's basically that realization of the importance of it is going to be like really really hard hitting fact for you to make a note of it. And how you do it, there are varieties of ways, and some of the most famous ones are making a journal and trying to sit down and check in with yourself and understand how the day went by. What did you
Mm-hmm.
do? How did it
Mm-hmm.
impact others? Has it helped? Has it not helped? All of that.
Yeah.
And even to do a journal, there are million ways to do a journal. If you're not really good with sitting down and writing, you can just open your phone camera and just record for yourself a
Yeah.
simple video every day, and in a matter of 1 month's time you'll have 30-40 videos which you can just look at
Yeah.
a later point in time. You
Yeah.
don't have to
Yeah.
publish anywhere. I'm not asking them to create videos and post anywhere, but just then keep it for yourself. And just by looking at those videos or even audio notes, by listening to them once in a week, you will be able to get enough insights about what's happening in your life, so that that creates some sort of awareness for you to make some necessary changes eventually.
Yeah. 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 Makes total sense. Yeah. I think take notes, right, along the way. If you are like, today, did you manage your team well? What was the response like? You keep noting the observations, and maybe over time you will also learn about yourself, actually, right? Like every day we
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
it's very
keep
important.
changing. And I think, Manish, we have answered this question, how much flexibility you see in organizations to welcome different industries. Yes. So Swaroop said, look for those organizations who have flexibility. There are enough of them. Very few, I
Yeah,
guess, in today's world will show inflexibility, right?
yeah,
Now we have, please share some examples of leadership communities to learn more on this.
Hmm. Yeah. So I think it depends on what space that you are part of.
Mhm.
If you are coming from a specific domain, say healthcare, there are enough such communities which are sprouting for for the need to serve people. So you could play a different role based on your expertise being in the healthcare domain, but you can always start as a volunteer, understand the landscape, and then raise your hand when there is a need for people to take up additional responsibility. And it really depends. If you're a student, for example, and when I was a student, there were these NSS, and there was
Yes.
Toastmasters as a public speaking and leadership development community. So communities are always there. It's just that now there's some sort of a spike in the way we call such organizations as communities, and there are a lot of them, by the way, now.
Yes.
So whether you are looking out for them in your own domain or not, if not, reach out to people. You must be
Yeah.
knowing one or two people in your network, definitely, who are into such communities. Talk to them, understand, get invited. If you don't know anyone in your network who are part of communities, it's time to change your network. I think you need to move to a different room, just to kind of
Yeah.
make yourself aware.
Yeah, I think we all learn from each other only, right? Like, so just change your change your company, you can say,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So if you are not learning, yeah. So Binti is saying, she's putting a lot of comments about your earlier answers. So thank you, Binti. Uh, Deepak, is it possible to go up the ladder, higher management, without a B school? CA management seems so obsessed for candidates from premium institutes. So, Deepak, I think we answered this question already, that MBA, per se, just having a degree on the resume is not necessary by leaders anymore, and if you can show those capabilities. And it's more to do with your self introspection, right? If you believe you already have those capabilities, then go for it. If you believe MBA will teach you those in a better way, go for MBA, like. So that's I would say, an not a general answer, but that's what it is. All right. So Swaroop, I think we have covered all the questions I can see. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so
Okay,
send off
cool.
it, Swaroop. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. And Swaroop, what I liked about is the calmness, right? You always took a balanced opinion about everything. I know some of the questions were probably, biased in one direction, but there, and I know that,
Yeah, that's
whatever you
fine.
say, there will be comments saying, no, no, MBA is required. I have MBA.
So
That
because
particular question.
the interesting side is, that's what I believe in, because you will see enough examples of both sides these
Mhm.
days.
Yes, exactly,
And it,
exactly.
it really boils down to the question as to what is it that you can do in your own space. If I tell someone that you should have an MBA, then there will be questions about which MBA. Even if you
Yeah,
do an MBA, there are a lot of people who do two MBAs, three
yeah,
MBAs.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there is never ending to this debate. That's what I feel, for MBA specifically, but in general as well. So we see different examples all the time.
No, no, and Swaroop, finally, I wanted to say that, there will be either sides to the story. There will be people on both sides, right? There will be people who are outliers. So it's all I think depends on really knowing who you are. And I think
Yeah,
all these questions, that expectations from employers, I think finally boil down to, can you deliver, right?
yeah,
Finally, what are the expectations? Irrespective of, let's say, having an MBA or having experience coming from different industry, I mean, finally, can you deliver, right? and
yeah,
and can you
absolutely.
show that you can deliver, right? So
Yeah,
in a
absolutely.
way, you can do it, right? So as you said, like, maybe even working in some NGO or communities, you can show leadership skills, right? So finally, it's all about
Yeah,
showing that, knowing about it.
absolutely.
And you also talked about continuous learning and learning from others, right? And that's what I guess the main important thing, because though MBA or some online degrees and courses do help, but like this, sometimes these non-linear skills do need people, like knowing,
Yeah.
learning from people, just like we are having this conversation, and many of them are sharing their thoughts and learning, and we are learning along the way. So how can we have more such conversations? And as you said, if you are not having those conversations, then change your company, right? I mean, company in the sense, the people around
Yeah,
you,
the
not the
people. Yeah.
organization. Change your people, right? Like, and
Yeah,
get into those
absolutely.
high achievers or doers, let's say action takers who are doing things at least, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in live. Thank you so much. And do follow Swaroop on LinkedIn. And as I said, I'm having a webinar on coming Sunday. So do meet me there for job search tips. And I'm doing such LinkedIn live almost every week now. So due to tuning to future lives, I will cover various aspects of career growth. And coming week, it's all about yoga day, right? Like coming Tuesday, we have yoga day. So I will take a topic which is on mental health and overall well-being along with our career growth, right? So how to balance the two? Maybe you can call it work-life balance, whatever that is, right? So I'm taking that topic deliberately next week to make sure, we are not just looking at career just for money or the position, but finally we are touching upon other aspects of being human as well, and we are growing holistically, right, along our lives and our careers. So that's the topic for next week, next Thursday. And so you will get that notification anyway on my LinkedIn. Thank you so much, Swaroop. Thank you for taking
Thank
time
you
out.
so much, Rashad, for inviting me. I really enjoyed talking to you and taking all the questions from your audience. And I wish you all the best for the future sessions. And I'd like to stay connected with the rest of the community who has just
Yes.
joined. So feel free to just connect with me on LinkedIn.
Thank you. Thank you, Swaroop.
Thank you.
Logging off. Bye.
Bye.